There we are.
Do you want to kick us off, Lutal?
I will kick us off. Yes. So we are recording. If anybody wants to have your video on, we'd love to see your face. Of course, you don't have to. We are going to be talking about contact data accuracy today. Our speaker here is Karen, who will introduce herself in a moment. But Karen did tell me ahead of the call that she is happy to take questions throughout the presentation today. So you can either throw them in the chat and Christina and I will kind of moderate that and bring those to the conversation, or you can just unmute yourself and ask. We'll also do some Q&A at the end if you want to jot something down and come back to it. So just really, really casual, really laid back, and we're just here to have a conversation and all learn together from Karen's expertise. So take it away.
I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you all for joining us. I can't emphasize enough. Please, please ask along the way. I'm one of those people that, I have a question in my head, and if I have to wait till the end, I might not ask it, or it's not relevant anymore. So please, I'm really comfortable. You're not gonna, and honestly, if you're thinking about the question, somebody else is too. So definitely go ahead and ask away. So we're going to cover off on a bunch of stuff. I'm going to try to keep it. We have a lot of material. So I'm going to try to keep it tight, even with the questions. So don't be afraid to ask. And so a little bit of an introduction about why what we're talking about is so important. What is really contact decay? What does it mean? What does that look like? What are some information capture best practices that can help you mitigate that? And then how does that impact the value of retention? How does that impact the value of acquisition? What do those comparisons look like? I want to spend some time actually calculating the impact on sales and get you thinking about that and ways you can improve your marketing. By the time we get to all that done, it'll be really clear how it improves your marketing ROI. So hopefully we're sort of building something and all the puzzle pieces will make sense for you at the end. And certainly if there are any outstanding questions, I will stay on as long as people have them. And we'll make sure that my email is in the chat. And so you can reach ask me any questions that you come up with later. No problem at all. So first, why the heck am I talking to you about this? What do I know about this? Well, I actually built my first customer database. And it was called a customer database because in 1989, CRM was not a term for Barney's New York. And so that was actually a really super interesting experience, building clienteling and a very early customer database and how it was used in the late 80s, early 90s. And I spent my first 10 years of my consulting life when I moved from there to a software company that was actually building the first desktop CRM tool. And I helped build an actual direct mail segmentation tool. Why direct mail? Because email wasn't used in 1981 very much and nobody was emailing. So it's like crazy.
It's like, I don't know how you did all that in 1981 when you were just 5.
Again, thank you. It's amazing what a good skincare routine will do for you. And the blur function on Zoom is really important. Anyway, and so I spent the first 10 years of my life convincing enterprise, CEOs, like the Fortune 1000 CEOs, why actually having a customer database was so important and why keeping their contact data was important to keep it up to date. And then I started a couple of companies, and my consulting company, the Prairie Group that I had for 26 years, which is still in business. Every year we would send out our Christmas cards or our holiday cards. They were holiday cards for us. And we would get them back and it would really piss me off. And so it drove me nuts. And so that was one of the impetuses for actually creating Contacts 411, because I really wanted to make sure that small businesses could have updated customer contact information. And so now I'm sort of on that soapbox, helping small businesses and medium-sized businesses understand why that is important and how they can compete effectively against these corporations that have these databases. So you all know that marketing is critical to driving sales, but I want you to think about some of the following points. First, you know that customers are the lifeblood of your business. Without them, you wouldn't be in business. But you also know that you can't sell to a customer you can't reach. I mean, they might walk in, you might have a great traffic location, but very few businesses can survive on traffic alone. So you have to be able to reach your customers. And enterprise companies know that CRM is a cost of doing business. It's why a lot of you also have HubSpot, right? You know that having that customer data is important. It's actually a $52 billion business, which is really insane. But the foundation of every successful enterprise CRM is actually consistently updated and enriched contact information. In fact, a lot of businesses send out data at once a night, at the end of the night. You know, when you go into a retailer and they ask you, can I have your name and your email? For every big company, that actually goes out to their data supplier and they try and match it and enrich it with your phone number, with your address, if it's public record information. Not that they're necessarily going to communicate to you that way, but that's the way they know that they'll keep that data up to date. And the more information they have, the better chance they have of doing that. So we didn't tell you that this was going to be interactive, but we do have a poll for you. We have several throughout the presentation. So the first question we have for you is, and actually this is going to show up too, but the first one is, are you keeping your customer contact up to date? And also, oh, why isn't this letting me go now? And do you know how much your outdated customer information is costing you? So if you guys want to take a minute and respond to those questions, we'll see where everybody is. Well, this is making me happy to see that most of you are updating and that even some of you know exactly how much your bad data is costing you. That's fantastic. So for those of you, just come off, and if you could come off mute, that'd be great. Like, a second, can I share results? Let me share the results. There we go. So I'm curious, for those of you who responded yes to updating, can you just unmute real quick or throw in the chat how you're actually updating your contact information? Anybody?
This is Lisa. It's kind of complicated. That's why I did this seminar or webinar. I'm trying to update my HubSpot database so that I know so I can segment the list and know where the leads are coming from. So I get feeds in leads from Alignable, from Black Directory, from Size Up Delaware. So, I mean, the stuff is all over the place. And I'm saying there's got to be a smarter way to do this,
So,
or an automated way to do this. So
so
that's where I am with that part of it,
awesome.
right?
Awesome. And that's leads, right? And I see in the chat, some people are deleting, some people are doing, manually, and also using platforms like Apollo, which are focused on acquisition and getting leads. So, you know, adding in leads to get in information. So that's really helpful. All right. So Lisa, make sure you ask questions throughout if you're not getting enough information about how to think about this and where to go. So
Okay.
there are some important numbers I want all of you to know. And I swear, I'm like, in the next hour, you're going to hear this like 3 times. And if there's nothing else you take away from this seminar, this webinar, these are the 2 things I want you to know. First is the number 7, lucky number, fabulous number. I love it. It's 7 times cheaper to get an existing customer to buy from you again than to get a new one to purchase. This number has been around forever. It was actually first proposed by Fred Reichheld and Bain. I've seen that number in my life and all the consulting work I've done with retailers and non-retailers alike be anywhere from 5 times to 20 times cheaper to get an existing customer to buy than to get a new one to buy. So just think about that for a second. The other number is 10. It typically takes 10 new customers to replace a lost customer. Now, it can be as low as 3 or 4 for a commodity-based business, but it also can be as high as 25 for a high value company, like think like a luxury retailer. Okay. So that's a lot of new customers. Data contact. How fast does it decay? What does decay mean? So it means it's obsolete, it's becoming incorrect over time. You all know, and the reason why you're probably on here is because you know that it impedes your operational efficiency, there are missed opportunities, and there's substantial revenue loss. Here are some stats that you may or may not know. 50% of business contact data changes annually. So Forbes actually says that number in 2023 was 70. So there's a lot of different ways people calculate it. I like to be more on the conservative side, not the sky is falling side. So that means if you've got 10,000 names in your B2B database, at the end of the year, 5,000 of them are still accurate. I know, it's really scary. And it's true though. And on the consumer side, it's about 36%. And these are numbers from the Census Bureau. You can see I've put on here where all these numbers are coming from. And Zero Bounce, which is a great place that tracks all kinds of email activity, said in 2023, 26% of emails become invalid. And on top of that, over 15% of emails are sent to catch-all emails.
I just want to interject, Karen, quickly and let everybody know that we'll be sharing the slides after, so you can just listen. No need to frantically take
don't panic. You don't have to look. We'll share them, not to worry. Also, 37% of people actually get new emails. So think about it. You don't have just one email. When one sort of starts to get too filled up or gets too much junk, it's pretty easy for you to just get a new Gmail, or you've changed a job and so you get a new email. So emails change a lot. So since you can't sell to a customer you can't reach, why is that? Well, first, the average US citizen moves 9 times after they turn 18. I bet a lot of you don't believe this, but just think about it for a second. How many times did you move after you turned 18? A lot, I bet. And millennials actually move every 1.7 years. Now, 80% of those moves are for job changes, but that number is actually, I don't know if you want to say up or down, it depends on how you think about it, but this is for 2023. In 2022, it was every 2 years millennials moved. 5.5 million new businesses were created in 2023. 5 million in 2022, and there are only 30 million small businesses. So think about that. If you're selling to other businesses, there are a lot of people who left their old job and created a new job that might want your product that you might not be able to reach anymore. So that's really important. And I bet, again, very curious to hear what you all have to say, that most of you are responsible for your own marketing and taking care of your own database. Yeah? Pretty common. Yeah, exactly. So, and really what you should be doing is selling. So first, how do you combat this? So we're going to do all this foundational stuff first, and then we're going to get into all the value numbers. So regular data audits, what do I mean? That's like looking at how full, like how many addresses do I have? How many emails are bouncing? Getting rid of those emails, but getting new emails. Before you get rid of that bounced email, you can actually correct that email and get a validated email. So that's called cleansing. An address that isn't formatted right, but you need to mail it, like getting that cleansed and updated, making sure that you have accurate information. Trying to do that quarterly is really important to do. A really important thing to have is written down, even if you're a small company, data entry standards. So what do I mean? Well, when you're gathering information on a prospect or gathering information on a customer, you want to make sure that it's very clear what data you're getting, what field it's getting put into, and how you want that data to be entered. You should be doing data enrichment. So tools like Breeze, and we'll talk about that, and Apollo to enrich with acquisition data, tools like Contact 411, Data Axle if you're a larger company, that add information, can help you get information, can clean your information and validate that your information is correct, is a really important thing to do. you'd also be surprised, keeping a regular backup is really important, because if you lose data, you might actually not be able to go back and reach a customer because the data that you have is too old. And there are plenty of professionals out there who can help you. And some of what we're going to do today is calculate the value of, is it worth it for you and your business to actually use those professionals? So what are some best practices? So we talked about that this is important. So what information should you gather and keep? It's really important to think about the fact that what you capture at the beginning on a prospect or on that first time customer will actually impact your ability to keep that customer, to keep in contact with that customer over time. I'm pretty sure you probably can't read what is on the right. I did that on purpose. This is a sample suggested client information template. I actually think it's terrible. Okay. When you look at what's on there, there's name, cell phone, alternative phone, social security number. Are you joking? Like, no, unless you're a bank. Like, no. So there's information on here that you don't really want to have. Now, I will say, if you're doing both B2B and B2C, or you are a not-for-profit, home and work address is really important. What's not enough? What do I mean by not enough? So we have a poll here. And the question is, are you capturing prospect contact data? Yes or no? And I don't mean buying it. I mean, are you actually capturing it, like on your website or some other way, like we see here with Zibby? And my point here, first I want to see if you're capturing it. Whoops, that's slide 16, not slide 12.
I know, sorry, my bad.
Wait, don't answer that question yet.
That is slide 12. Okay, there you go. Sorry.
There we go. Okay, answer this one, please. All right, so some of you are getting email, some of you are getting names, some of you are getting phone number. All right, this is great. So far, nobody's saying none at all, which, by the way, is an okay answer too. Okay. This is making me super, super happy to see that you're all getting name. Name is so, so important. Why is name important? I'm going to give you an example of my son, my 29-year-old son. He's got 4 emails. I'll give you 3 of them. Greer96@gmail.com. Sir Sales a Lot at gmail.com. I'm not showing them to you because I don't want them to be like emailed. And bsalic96@gmail.com. They're all the same person, my 26-year-old son. But there is no way, if you didn't get name Greer Salic, and you would know that bsalic96 is him, because you also wouldn't know that his first name is Benjamin, his middle name is Greer, and that's what he goes by, right? And you wouldn't know that Sir Sales a Lot is him. You also wouldn't know that bgsalic@gmail.com is actually his grandmother, because her first name happens to be Barbara. So name is so, so, so important. What's too much? Too much is actually asking for information that you're not going to use, or information that you can't protect well. So I know birth date, and birth date forever along with CRM has been a thing that's been super sort of focused on, like, oh, we have to do a birthday program. We have to do a birthday thank you program. And people are asking for exact birthday. I'm going to argue left, right, and center that you don't need more than month and day, or even month and year. It can be really dangerous if you're keeping a lot of other PPI. I worry about California specifically because of the regulations, but the truth is that the California Privacy Protection Act is becoming close to standard in a lot of states, and eventually will probably become the national standard. So you just want to make sure that you're not taking more than you use. Also, don't use email as a unique customer ID if at all possible. I know HubSpot actually doesn't do this, but there are other CRMs that do. It is just not a great practice. We just talked about how many emails somebody has. And so if somebody changes an email, that creates a nightmare in your database. It also means you can't really consolidate. So I love the fact that HubSpot doesn't do that. I think it's really important. Also, getting an opt-in is really important at the same time you're getting information. That's not too much, I don't think. I think that's a really important thing. And just right is really depends on you, right? First name and last name and one contact method at a minimum. So again, that depends on, are you going to send a birthday gift or an offer? If you're not, don't ask for it because you're setting an expectation. But if you are, do. But how are you going to communicate? Are you marketing via SMS? If you're not, don't ask for mobile. Why do you need it? If you are, ask for it. For a prospect, really best standard, as you all are doing, is name, email. That's great. Phone, if you want. Zip code can actually be really helpful because it'll give you some location information. And if you're ever doing anything event-based, until you actually can match and enrich and get to address, or they become a customer with address, that will really help you. We had Zibby, and I know you guys are from the LA area, so shout out to Zibby's bookstore in Santa Monica. You know, people travel and they go to that bookstore, but she does events all over the country. So it's really important to know where somebody is so that you're not actually sending bookstore events for that location in Santa Monica to me, because I live in Connecticut. That's going to be frustrating because I'm going to look at something that I want to attend and then I can't. So that's super frustrating. But if she's coming to New York and giving a seminar in New York, I want to go. She wants to know that. And that might convert me from being a prospect into a customer. So all of that is really important. Customers absolutely get address. Whether you're shipping to them or not, address is the most important way. It will get you the best match rates and ability to stay in contact. What are some other best practices for data capture? We talked about consistent data entry guidelines. Make sure your entire team knows them and uses them. Always ask for first and last name. We talked about that. Here's something with address that's really important, especially if you want to use automated sources to update or to validate or just clean up your data. Instead of putting the entire address in one field, separate it. So you have street address line 1, which should have the number and the street. Street address line 2, which is where you would put suite or apartment number. City in its own field, state in its own field, zip code in its own field. Having those separate components actually allows you to keep your data even more clean, even more up to date, and work more easily with data vendors. Also, really important, before you enter a new customer into the database, check to see if they're already there. Duplication costs you a lot of money from emails, from direct mail if you're going to do it, and just from hosting. You know, if you've got a 20% duplication rate on your HubSpot database, you're paying 20% more than you need to be paying. Clean that up. Now, again, if you don't have enough data to confidently know, and this is where having more data gets you more contact data gets you a better ROI. Having more information allows you to know that Karen Salick at theprioritygroup.com or ksalick at theprioritygroup.com and Karen Salick at contacts411.com, both of those at 70 Chestnut Hill Road in Westport, Connecticut, are actually the same person. And you can put them together, even if you don't have address on one of them. So those are important things to know too. Also, a best practice is before you put new data into a database, clean it, enrich it, make sure it's validated before. Garbage in, garbage out. It's much easier to put in clean data first and then keep your information updated at least quarterly. Lastly, please keep your information in one place. It's so easy to have a sales list over here, um, a segment of other customers over here, or, you know, somebody who went to an event in another place. Put it all in one place so that you can understand the full relationship and the full value. And lastly, I don't care where you live, and I know most of the people on this call are probably from California, but I truly believe everybody should be CCPA compliant. And that means get your opt-in. Don't, if somebody asks you not to use their information, don't use their information. We at Contact Forum One are maniacal about it. Not only do we use CCPA compliant sources who will not provide us information on somebody who's requested not to have their information shared, but we also allow people to reach out to us and say, we don't want you to share the public record information. And even though it's public record information, so just because they ask us, it doesn't mean that other places won't have that information. I feel good knowing that we're keeping to someone's wishes. Okay, so this is probably what you were waiting for, the value. I'm trying to go as fast as I can. And wait, let me just check in on everybody because nobody's asking questions and I'm not actually probably giving you even a second. Is everybody good so far? Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna take.
There are, Lisa had a couple of questions in the chat,
Oh,
Karen.
yeah.
When she asked, where is the opt-in part? And I'm sorry, I didn't notice, Lisa, when you asked that, so I don't know what it's about. And then the second thing, she says, constant contact seems to do this better than HubSpot. It's not an issue for me because I only have 270 contacts currently in HubSpot.
Okay, so first thing is on the opt-in part, you want to make sure that you actually ask when you're gathering the information. Is it okay to market to you? And if you're getting phone number, would you like us to communicate with you via SMS or only for customer service reasons? So getting that opt-in then is really important. Also, the first time you send an email, you can also do it the first time you send an email, and you can do it the first time you send an SMS. If you have a mobile phone, that very first time you send it, you've probably gotten these, you can actually say, we'd like to actually send offers to you in this way, only if you'd like it, but you have to opt in. We won't ever send you another one unless you say, please continue. And so you can do that. But again, you can do all those things easiest when you're gathering the information. I'm not sure what you mean about constant contact seems to do this better. Lisa,
The deduping, the duplication.
oh, yeah. I'm actually not really sure. I actually haven't done deduping and constant contact, so I don't know. But that is a really important thing to do. And depending on the size of your database, you can either do it, you know, in a bulk way. Do it, I think it's important, or you can do it one at a time. But it is something that's important.
And HubSpot.
This is HubSpot. Can I just jump in here real quick?
Yeah.
Since this is HubSpot and we are talking about, you know, duplications, I don't have the issue, but just moving forward, what would be your recommendation? I mean, I guess right now I'm looking at your recommendation as just clean your list every quarter.
No,
to make
well,
sure
I
you don't have
also think
dupes.
you need to update it too. I mean, I'm sorry, you need to dedupe it too. And so we'll talk about that right at the end in terms of like what tools you can use. I mean,
Okay.
you've only got 200 and you did say 270, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So with 270, depending on the value for you and what you're doing, it might be easiest actually just to do it manually, depending on how much time that cost takes you. But if that takes you a lot of time, there
Yeah.
are sources where you can do that small number affordably automatically. But you want to do the value calculation first. So we're going to go through that.
And
All right,
Lisa,
that's fine. I don't want to hold you up.
yeah, Lisa, HubSpot does have a deduplication
Yep.
tool and allows you to merge contacts together. So if you want more information specifically
Okay,
on the
perfect. And
HubSpot
that's fine.
part,
I can figure it out. I just, you know, I didn't have to
Great.
use it. But I've
Right.
worked with databases before and I know it can be kind of a nightmare. So I like the customer ID thing too.
Yeah, the customer ID thing is great.
Yeah.
Another question in the chat.
Might be a later topic, but large part of it is organized, keeping the marketing, non-marketing status up to date, depending on contacts ops.
Yes.
Yeah,
I
so
had that issue too.
so the best practice for that, and actually I don't have a slide for that, so thank you for that question, Shun.
It's a good
Um,
question.
yeah, it's a really good question. The best practice is you need to have opt-ins or outs for overall communication, like they just don't want any communication, and it should be with a date. So when did they ask it? So keep the date and the yes, no flag for whether they should communicate overall. You can also, if you have the ability and really want to do it really, really well, is by form of communication. So some people say, you can direct mail me, but I don't want you to call me. Right? So by form of communication, so there are three, right? There's SMS or call, there's text or text, call, email, and direct mail. So keeping a yes, no on each of those with a date. And so in the United States, this is not true in Europe, but in the United States, you can leave that as a yes until they say no. Okay, and as soon as they say no, you need a date. Patel, what were you going to say?
Yeah, no, I was just gonna weigh in on Shun's comment because I'm assuming you mean the marketing, non-marketing status for HubSpot billing. So HubSpot, I think that's like 2 years ago now, put in new pricing plans, and those pricing plans, they charge you based on the number of contacts you have, but they also give you some up to 1 million or some crazy number of non-marketing contacts for free. So if you're not marketing to them, you can keep their information in HubSpot, but not pay for it unless you're marketing to them. So I will write a note to send you some more information on that, Shun. And if anybody else is interested, please let me.
Latel, that's actually a really good point. And the other thing is, what you want to make sure you do is if that email bounces, you should not delete it. You should put it in that non-marketing piece. So make sure you know why you're not marketing to them, because you can actually get that email updated. Right? Or you might be able to get from the email and address and be able to send them a postcard and communicate with them. So again, you still might be able to reach them in other ways, but you don't want to have to pay for them until you actually can communicate with them. I wouldn't delete them completely because you might be able to get updated information. Okay. So we know about the 7 times cheaper number. We've already talked about that. But improving your retention rate. So the retention rate is how many of your customers that bought from you this last year buy from you again this year. That is a really important number to know. And if you can improve that by just 5%, you can actually impact your profits by 25 to 100%. It's a really big deal. What's the easiest way to retain your customers? It's by staying in touch with them and continuing to engage with them. If you can market to them, you can keep them and keep them buying. But if they move, change jobs, change emails, it makes it so much harder. So now we've got the slide 16 poll, which is to see if you know what % of your customers buying this year purchased from you last year. Okay, this is awesome. So for the 5 of you that are over 50%, that is awesome. Congrats. By the end of this, you're going to be able to do better. For those of you that have no idea, you definitely, I know HubSpot has the ability to do that analysis. That is a really, really, really important number you need to have. My email is going to go in the chat. If you need some help figuring out how to calculate this, I think you probably saw on that earlier slide, I taught the first CRM class at NYU. Reach out to me. I'm happy to walk you through and help you figure out how to do this. And for those of you that know that it's less than that, we can absolutely make this better. And you're going to see why it's so important. So this is real data, okay, from I would call it a mid-luxury retailer by location. So those bars are by location. And what it shows, and can you guys see my little arrow? So what it shows is the average spend by location for the new customer and the existing customer. And you see that there's a huge variation. Well, there's a really strong correlation between better overall average customer value and how much contact information was captured at point of sale at these locations, okay? But also, what is really important is there is a significant difference in existing customers. So I want to bring your attention to these two locations. Notice the new customer numbers are really similar. It's around $1,200, okay? But this location on the right, the existing customer, barely increased. It's not because they offer different products. It's because their point of sale capture rate of customer contact information was a third of what this location on the left was. So what that means is constant continuous communication matters. Being able to reach customers matter. And so staying in touch with them matters. The difference here was $1,500 a customer, just because they had better data capture so that they could keep that data up to date and reach more customers. And my entire career, I have seen that correlation always. So this is an old slide that I love so much. This is a 35-year-old slide, practically. It's almost 35 years old. I remember when it came out in 1990, I was working at Barney's, New York. I was so happy that HBS and Bain came out and quantified and supported some of the points I was trying to make to my CFO about why it made sense for him to spend the money that I made him spend on our clienteling tool. Customers that have already purchased from you are already less price sensitive. They know you better. They're significantly more likely to buy again. They're going to tell others about you. They'll just overall spend more. There's just so many good reasons to keep that information, stay in contact with them. And it still holds true to today. Oh, sorry, there was one other point, which is upsell and cross-sell. Another really important point is those existing customers, when you offer a new product, they're going to be the most likely ones who are going to pick up that new product because they trust you. Why else is retention so important? This is real data for a high-end luxury business. So you can see here that the top 5% spent $15,000 on average in 1 year. The average customer spent about $2,000. So if they lost one customer, which they did, more than they would like to admit, it was 7 new customers that they needed to replace the spending, and 7 new customers spending at an average value. Most of you know that a new customer doesn't spend at an average customer value. That's an average. That's a really, really hard get. And it's actually the number 7.5. It's much more likely that they're going to spend in this bottom sort of 80% range where most new customers come in, which is around $900. That means 17 new customers they need to replace one customer loss at the top. Just think about that for your own business. So,
and Karen, are those numbers kind of consistent B2C versus B2B?
Great question. Actually, again, it's not about B2C versus B2B. It's about the value of the product you sell. So the more commodity oriented you are, the lower the number is, right? Because if you have a lot of sort of one and done and your average number of purchases, over the length of your customer lifetime is, under 2, that number is going to be significantly less. But if you were keeping customers and customers come back, that number is going to increase. If you offer a product that is somewhat unique or somebody is very brand loyal to you, that number increases. If your average, transaction value is $400 or $500, that becomes a big number. If it's like, think about car companies too, right? Like somebody might get a new car every 3 or 4 years. And, if you're buying a Mercedes, that's awesome versus, a Honda Civic that, is maybe that somebody keeps for 10 years. So again, it totally depends on the business, and what you're doing with it, but it's again more about product. But this number is so consistent. It's like 5 to 25 is really what we see. So let's talk about how much it's going to cost you to get those new customers. So the first thing is, just in general, overall cost of acquisition is $500. It used to be around $400 for mature industry, for mature businesses overall. Now it's $500. It is, though, all over the map in terms of your business. So in June, HubSpot had a blog, say that 10 times fast, where they quoted a First Page Sage, and that the numbers they gave were on the B2B. Customer acquisition costs ranged from $86 for B2B e-commerce to almost $1,200 in higher education. And on the B2C side, CACs range from $68 in e-commerce to over $500. Actually, interestingly, in treatment centers, I thought that was actually an interesting piece of information. Shopify had a blog in July that gave CACs for their customers in e-commerce ranging from $21 in arts and entertainment industry all the way to $377 for electronics. Okay, so knowing that, let's do some simple retention math. Lose one top customer and you need somewhere between 7 and 17. So I just want to give you a range. If your CAC is $500, so by the way, I'm all going to tell all of you, you got to know your CAC. Really important. If your CAC is $500, you need to spend an extra $3,500 to $8,500 per lost top customer to replace that revenue. I know, it's so much money, right? It's crazy. And even if your CAC is 70, which we're all happy, like a $70 CAC, like, as long as your average customer value is not $40, you're great. But even there, you need to spend somewhere between almost $500 and almost $1,200 to replace revenue from one of those top lost customers. That's a lot. So anyone on this webinar, I just want to offer to you, I'll leave my email for you. Reach out to me if you want help calculating all of this for your own business and how to think about it. Just reach out to me. I'm happy. I've got a Calendly. You can set up a 30-minute session with me and I will help you get through for these numbers. Because I just want small businesses to succeed. I'm really passionate about it. I mean, we're like the lifeblood of communities. It's just really important to me. So anyway, please do that. Take me up on it. Some important points to consider. You got to know your CAC. We already said that. Make sure you have a basic retention strategy before you spend money on all those acquisitions and buying all those lists. So Lisa and Omi, I think, I forget who else, buying all that acquisition data, that's awesome. That is great. That is how you're going to grow your business. But you got to make sure that once that customer converts into once that prospect converts into a customer, how are you going to keep them? Because you have to pay for those. And don't forget that acquisition contact data gets old too. So if you got that information a year ago, whoever you got it from, whether you got it from Zoom Info or Apollo, that data is getting old too. So you got to make sure that you're updating that as well. one and done customers only work for a business if your first purchase value is more than your cost of acquisition. So look, if your business gets plenty of customers at a $500 value and it only costs you $100 to get a customer, you have the Midas touch. You do not really even have to necessarily worry about all this. Now, you could be making a ton more money and be a lot more profitable. But honestly, 95% of businesses or more, that is not the case. So you do need to pay attention. Okay, so now we talked about how much it impacts how much the value of retention is. We talked about how much it costs to get a new customer. What about the impact on sales of having that accurate information? So you can look at it from, okay, what am I losing in retention, or what do I have to spend? But there are some really simple ways to think about, like, if I just had better contact data, what would that do? What would that impact be on my sales? And this isn't even going to calculate how that impairs operational efficiency. Okay, so what does this mean? Oh, wait, there was something I wanted to talk about. Oh, yeah, wait, hang on. First, HubSpot. This is actually Lital in the link that you put in the invite for this, had a link to a great blog that talks about the fact that email conversion drops 20% due to bad data. Forbes study that was published in April says 44% of respondents say that they lose 10% of their revenue due to data getting old. HubSpot quoted an HBR study that said inaccurate contact information leads to 12% lower annual sales. Okay, and that's from missed marketing opportunities, reduced customer engagement. Serve, another business that actually helps you validate your emails, actually, concurred by saying that businesses lose 12% of their revenue annually due to ineffective data management. So what does that actually mean? It means if you're doing $1 million in sales with outdated contact information and you haven't been really updating, you could be doing $1.1 to $1.2 million in sales. And that might be the difference between staying in business or going out of business, growing. It might be the difference between needing to find outside capital versus internally funding your own growth and not having to have your equity taken away. Those are really valuable things to think about. All right, I'm going to stop for a second and ask if anybody's got any questions. Okay. The other thing is CRM stats become inaccurate. And again, you've got HubSpot, you've got other tools. Knowing these pieces of information are really, really important. You need to make sure that you know your recency. And you want to know that when you get a new email from a customer, is that actually a new customer? Or is that an existing customer giving you a new email? Because what you don't want to do is send a thank you for becoming a new customer. We're really excited that you joined our flock to one of your better customers. Because they don't really know. They don't really realize that they sent you a new email. So that's an important thing. It also messes up your recency, right? Because it looks like that existing customer hasn't purchased from you in a long time. Average customer value becomes inaccurate because if you've got multiple emails and multiple addresses and phones that are separated, or you don't have enough information, so you have Karen Salick 3 different times as Kay Salick in one place or Karen Humphreys Salick in another place with different emails, and you don't have enough information to put me together, you don't know, and you've got that on a fair percentage of your database, you don't know an average customer value. Why is that important? Because then you won't know actually an accurate number for a top customer, and you won't know how many customers if you lose one of them. So all these value numbers to really know your ROI won't be accurate. And this is the one that pains me the most. You don't want to lose a top customer. But if you don't know that that's a top customer, that top customer is going to go unrewarded. They're going to go unthanked, or worse, uncontacted, because they've moved and changed jobs and you don't have the information anymore. That one breaks my heart. Okay, what are some of the benefits for complete and accurate contact information? And by the way, I put this example in here because this is what I think about sort of as complete, having this kind of information is great. So again, more accurate customer value, but better targeting and personalization. You're more accurate, and building trust with a customer with accurate communications. So I want to share a quick story with you guys. So when I was working in the Priority Group, which was my consulting business before I started Contact 411, we were hired by a company because they, urgently, they had this urgent project that their CEO wanted to do. They wanted to send out gift certificates to thank their top customers because he had read some article and they knew that this was important and he wanted to do it before the holiday season, urgent. I'm sure none of you have had this urgency from the senior person in your company. And so we didn't have time and we didn't look at the quality of the customer information that they were using. And the gift certificate and the letter that they sent, and we didn't see it before, actually said to people, said to people, thank you for what you spent with us so far this year. We're sending you this gift card to use. It's money to spend to either get yourself something nice around Christmas or to use towards your Christmas gifts. And they wanted to entice people to spend more next year. So they gave these thresholds. So if you spent, between this and this, we've sent you this. And if you spent this next level, we sent you this gift card worth this. Okay. So that was a sound idea, thinking like, oh, let's encourage people. But they hadn't checked to make sure that the information was accurate at all. And so what happened? Customer service was absolutely inundated with calls from unhappy people saying they had spent more, they should have gotten a better gift card. And so what was supposed to be this awesome surprise and delight actually upset some of their better customers. So anyway, all right, I have to move faster because I'm supposed to be done in 6 minutes. Okay, so for every 1,000 updated and validated emails, let's calculate how much more revenue you could be reaching. So I saw in the chat, somebody was saying they deleted those. Well, what would happen if you didn't delete them and we were actually able to update them and get you new emails and you could communicate? So I just picked 1,000 because I did. All right. Emails, overall 0.6% response rate. Okay, that's the standard number. All of you probably have a different number. You want to know what it is, you should know what it is. Look, it's the afternoon for me. It's midday lunch for you guys. Let's make the math easy. Let's say your response is $100 per responder. What does that mean? It means for every $600, for every 1,000 updated emails, you recoup $600 in sales for every single communication. Not just in a year, but every time you send an email. That doesn't sound like much, but wait a second. So here's a simple spreadsheet. Happy to share this with everybody. The inputs are simple. We're going to put in 1,000 updated contacts, a response rate of 6%. We're going to update it to $200 just for the fun of it. Then how many communications do you do a month? Let's say you do 2. I bet most of you do more than that. Let's say you do 26 a year. At 200 with that low response rate, that's $1,200 per marketing communication. That's, if you send 2 a month, that's $2,400 a month, and it's $31,000 a year in revenue you're missing. But what if you actually could have 3,000 updated contacts, 3,000 updated emails? That number would be almost $100,000. Okay. So complete actually complete contact information also will ensure better sales. What is complete? First name, last name, email, phone, and address. That is considered the gold standard. You want as many of your contacts as possible to have all three. Why? Because the more ways you can communicate with them, the better, and the better your chance, sorry, I want to say this correctly, the better your chance of staying up to date, keeping it up to date. So how do you get it? Well, first, you can ask for it, right? Or you can turn, if you've got addresses, you can get addresses from emails. You can also get addresses from phone numbers. This is what data enrichment is all about. You can get emails from addresses. We have a customer right now who is saving tons of money. He used to direct mail everything to his customers. And because they were older, he's realizing they use emails now, but he didn't have their emails. He's saving tons of money. You can get emails from phone numbers. You can also get phone numbers from addresses, and you can get phone numbers from emails. So all of those things are ways that you can enrich your data, and you should be thinking about doing it so you don't have to ask for all of it. Why do you need it? If you're doing location-specific marketing, we talked about multiple touches, increasing response rates, multiple channels of communications, and we're going to talk about the specifics for this in a second and the numbers behind it. And this is really important. Direct mail, look, what is old is new again all the time. So when I started out, email didn't exist. Direct mail was the only way to communicate. Then all of a sudden, email came in, people went completely away from direct mail. And now direct mail is having a huge, huge comeback. So Neil Patel, I don't know if any of you follow him. He's great. Let's look at some direct mail versus email numbers that he shared recently in a blog. So email response rate, 0.6%. Direct mail response rate for a prospect, and this is buying, right? So when I'm saying response rate, I don't mean just activating and asking for information. I mean buying, 2.9%. For customers, it's 5.3%. So what does that mean? That's $600 from your 1,000 new emails. If you send a postcard, becomes $5,300 with your customers. If you send them a postcard, that's a big difference. SMS, and I don't know how many of you are doing SMS, but there's a much better open rate, 98% versus 20%. An increased click-through rate that's over double, a better conversion rate that's almost double, and my favorite, 17 times more revenue. So what does that mean? It means that $600 that you generated from emails could actually be 10,000. Not insignificant. Okay, I think I can get through the last of this very quickly. I'm sorry. I know we sent this for an hour and a half, but I want to leave plenty of time for questions. So what are some of the specific ROIs? Why am I getting some weird? Oh, that was crazy. I just got some weird WinZip thing. Okay, this chart is from the Association of National Advertisers, and it shows the average ROI for different forms of communication. So sending direct mail to house lists, that means your own, the names you own. The ROI is 161%. So that means for every dollar you spend, you'll get $2.61 back on average. Email to your own existing list, for every dollar you spend, you'll get $1.44 back. And you can just do the same for all of those, right? So emailing or direct mailing your customers have the highest percent of ROI. But here's something really important. If you send an email and then you follow it with a piece of direct mail as simple as a postcard, which can cost very little, it will increase your brand recall by 40%, but we're seeing that it increases actual spending response rate by upwards of 25 to 35%. Yeah, so the multiple ways are really great. And then once you've spent to get that new customer, you want to be sure to connect with them in multiple ways because you just want them to remember you and think about you more. And that has really been shown, all those multiple ways to communicate have been shown to improve lifetime value. Okay, so we're getting to the end. But one of your biggest questions is how? Because I did a run through with Littell and Christina, and they were like, wait, you did all this, but you didn't tell us how to clean up. So here's some options for you for content cleanup and enrichment, right? So look, somewhere between 500 and 1,000, like the only thing it's going to cost you if you do it manually, right? Whether it's consumer or business, is time. It's direct human reach out. It's going into LinkedIn. It's Googling and updating. There are things that you can do there, paying sort of one at a time. Breeze, which is in beta with HubSpot, which is a really cool thing and really, really awesome for segmentation, actually. If you're selling to businesses, they give very cool firmographic information and social media links. So it'll enrich the company information that you have where someone works to help you with targeting. It'll also validate that work email for you. And there's a direct integration. It gives firmographics like how many people work there. They'll do what department someone works in, what industry the company's in, what's their URL. And so we put the estimated annual costs on the side there and how many database contacts you can use. So that's in beta. That's really cool. Contact 411 is best for, you can use it for both consumer and business data. We have both. We're really only about specific contact information. So we don't have social media links, but we do have emails, phone numbers, and addresses, both on the consumer side and on the business side. So we have business individuals and with their role in their company, the company name, their title, things like that. And so that's an easy way to automatically do it. And then if you're really big and you've got over 500,000 names, and you can afford to spend $100,000 or more a year, I would actually personally recommend going to Data Axle. They've got great data quality. You need an IT staff though, because that takes a custom integration into your database. But those are there. And look, there are other options. There's Apollo and Zoom, and there's Rocket Reach. Those are much more focused though on actually acquisition and scraping. And they're not as focused on like the tight matching to the data that you have. And so that's why I put in HubSpot Breeze here over those as well. But I'm happy to talk about those too, because it really depends on what you're trying to do. Okay, so some key steps: consistent and accurate contact information capture, always with first name and last name. Consolidate your contacts, enrich and update at least quarterly. Send a thank you after a purchase. It's the easiest thing. Send a thank you. Communicate to your more valuable customers in multiple ways to improve retention. Spend that money. It's worth it. Track and measure. So you know for you, what is the ROI on an email? What is the ROI on a piece of direct mail? Test it out and see. You'll never know unless you try. SMS too. Some other key takeaways. Remember, contact information, depending on what it is, decays anywhere from 25 to 70% annually. The more contact information you have, the easier it's to keep up to date, and the more accurate your view of the customer will be, the easier it is to get that full view. 7 times cheaper. Like literally tell all your friends. This is my favorite number. 7 times cheaper. And typically 10 new customers are needed to replace the top customer. A couple more. When you're doing contact updating to help you stay in touch with customers, you're never going to get 100% match rate, right? That specific individual matching is really, really, really hard. It's why not many people do it, It's why most of the vendors out there are doing acquisition. It's easy to let you add data, but taking that exact customer and getting the right matching and updating data is not so easy. So really, depending on what you have, you can expect to get anywhere from 30 to 70% of your data updated and confirmed and enriched, okay? Depending. And then please make sure you know how much revenue communicating with 1,000 customers that you couldn't reach before, that you can now reach with updated contact information will generate for you, because that will help you make smarter ROI decisions for marketing and give you better ROI. Okay, 7 minutes over. So listen, I'm going to drop my email in the chat. So please, and Lital will also give it to you coming out.
Yes, I'll send a follow-up email this afternoon, and it'll have links to our recording, to Karen's slides, to Karen's contact information, this discount code. We'll put everything in one spot for you.
Yeah. And so thank you for doing, for coming. I hope you found it valuable. But please, if you've got any additional questions or anything, I'm happy to stay on for as long as you'd like. And definitely please feel free to use that LA Hug 25 to get that discount. And I'm just going to stop the share and open it up for additional questions if anybody wants to ask that. And you're all welcome.
So how do the tools work with the turnover, especially of small businesses, contacts? How do tools like Contact 411 keep you up to date when there are changes?
Yep, that's a great question, Tori. What would be amazing is if it actually told you that, hey, this person moved. But that would mean we'd have to keep your data, and we don't want your data. So it really relies on the organization, both small and large, to have an ongoing routine. So for Contact 411, we are actually hopefully soon going to build a direct integration with HubSpot. We just need more customers to get there, but it's a CSV file. So you would actually export a simple CSV file of your contacts. We don't take it, you do it, you put it through our tool. It'll take anywhere from 15 minutes to 30 minutes to update up to 50,000 contacts. And then you get a CSV file back with all the new data that you load into your HubSpot.
Nice.
And you can do it every month.
Great. Yeah,
and
we're
like I said, hopefully it'll be linked soon, but not yet.
Yeah, so we're a B2B company, but we get a lot of B2C leads. So we're a solar company, and so our dealer network, we send the leads to our dealer network. And so a lot of the B2C leads, especially from Facebook, we can't get in touch with them. Our dealers can't get in touch with them. Nope. They don't seem like they're valid. I don't know if they're bots to keep you paying for Facebook ads.
Yeah, we can help you. We actually are the only source for consumer data for small business. And we actually use a data source that is one of the top, there are 3 big consolidated ones, and they actually have 357 million US adults, and it's CC compliant. And so, yeah, I'm happy to talk to you, Tori, offline, and give it a try, because all the consumer data is validated. So depending on the data you have, I can't tell you what the match rate would be, but whatever you would get would be validated. And it would be address, email, phone, whatever we can give you. I think they have like 2 or 3 billion validated emails, 1 billion phone numbers, and then addresses, of course, on all of those individuals. But it's all at an individual level match.
Nice. That's our one challenge. And our other challenge is our network of dealers tend to be very small businesses and do have a lot of turnover and don't always have websites, don't always check their email. And so keeping track, when they sign up with us, we get, their dealer application, but a lot of times they're putting an accountant or putting their home address or not putting. And so keeping up with that data.
I really you are my perfect customer. Because exactly, like, one of the reasons why we made sure that you could do business and consumer data in one pass is exactly that. So happy to help you out and talk to you about it.
Thank you. That'd be fantastic because that's it's a huge task, and we're constantly having everybody in the company have to go out and try and call our contacts regularly and figure out, is this person still with the company? Is this the person we should be sending leads to? Is this? And
So
it's just,
I'm gonna share with you a story of a customer, a relatively new customer. I think she onboarded like 6 weeks ago, maybe. And she had 10,000, not quite, almost 10,000 B2B contacts. And she was the leads generator, and her responsibility was also for updating the CRM. It took her 3 years to update a third of her database. We updated it in 15 minutes.
oh, wow.
Now, listen, it was 50% match rate. Okay. So we didn't get everybody,
Sure.
but
she didn't
still,
either.
it was 15 minutes. She was almost in tears.
Yeah. Yeah, we spend weeks trying to get the information, and then a few months later it's inaccurate again. So
Exactly.
I'm so glad you came today, Tori.
I'm really glad you came today.
I'm glad too. I'm more the admin, kind of putting the glue together, and so when I see the missing information, it drives me nuts.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it is, it's very time consuming. It's two guys in a truck that are on the roof all day, and so they're not updating their they're not answering the phone, they're not updating their information.
Right,
And
of
so
course.
just, spending that time, and we only have 4 sales reps covering, 700 plus dealers. And so it's a challenge.
Yeah.
Christina, I wonder if maybe offline, if Tori doesn't have time now, but I wonder if you could share with him the dealer locator that we created for.
Oh yeah.
Good idea.
So we have a client that manufactures abrasives, and they have a large dealer network that is you get it. It's a
Yes.
level of their distribution. So
That's great too.
Yeah, we actually use a service called Mapsly, where you can either pick counties or cities or zip codes, or you can actually draw little areas, and it integrates with HubSpot, and it pulls in every 5 minutes, it pulls in all the contacts. And so all the new contacts it finds. And so we have a workflow that it marks them. So somebody submits a form from our website or from Facebook, and that creates a new contact and marks them as a B2C contact. And then Mapsly pulls in that information, figures out whether it's in one of the territories. And then there's code that says if it's in this territory, then assign it to this company and send it to this email distribution group. And so
And
it
then
works.
does it also give you like a month end or a year end of like, hey, dealer, we sent you this many leads this month?
No, that's something that we have to keep track of. And so, yeah, it is a big challenge because, so we send the leads, and then so that kicks off a workflow within HubSpot, sends out the leads, and it actually creates a deal also. And so we're skipping the marketing qualified, the sales qualified, all those stages, go right to opportunity, sends out the email to the dealer with a form, a HubSpot form attached to the email that says update the status of this lead. And then a couple of days later, it sends an email again. And then like a week later, and then 30 days later.
Okay.
But it relies on the dealer opening up that email, contacting the homeowner, and then updating the status. And a lot of times it can take a while for them to get in touch with the contact, the homeowner, and then get out there and propose a job. And then we're relying on them remembering, okay, this was a lead that was sent to me, and so I need to go dig up that email. I need to update the form to tell them what it's at. And so, yeah, so we're still trying to work out our process to figure out the ROI, because our dealers all said, we close 80% of our leads. Just all we want is you to send us more leads. And then we send all these leads, and then it's very low close rate. And the only way we can tell it's closed is if they update the form, which they almost never do, or they register the system, and not all dealers register their systems. In California, they don't have to register it for the warranty. It's a 12-year warranty. And so, but they don't have to register it online in California for the warranty to still be, still go into effect. And so, and then it's still a matter of, if they do register the system, matching up, is this new registration the same person that filled out the form? Did the emails match up? Did the dealer plug in the right address? It's just, a lot of headaches to figure out the ROI, and a lot lower than we would have thought.
Yeah.
I wonder if you could offer some sort of incentive to fill out the form.
We do, and it does work. We do, like every once in a while, we'll offer like a free panel campaign. And so if they sell a system of a certain size, then they get a free panel. So they have to register it for that to go into effect.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously we don't want to, pay a lot of money to get them to do something that we wouldn't like for them to do automatically.
Right.
But yeah, we're trying right now. We're doing one for the homeowners, for them to incentivize them, where we're sending a manufacturer's $200 manufacturer's rebate directly to the homeowners. And so that gets them more involved and make sure that their system gets registered and has their correct information.
Do you do campaigns, like, I'm saying this because I just did my taxes yesterday. Do you do campaigns around tax time to get them like refunds, rebates, whatever it is for?
Yeah. And it's seasonal. And so different parts of the country do better at different times. And then where we have the big dealers. So that's a nice thing about like the Facebook marketing, is you can get very granular about where, okay, let's market the areas, the higher income areas right around this dealer who is asking for a bunch of leads. Let's generate a bunch of leads there. And it does generate the leads, but the quality of the leads is another story.
Right. Well, that's the bigger issue, right?
Right. And so we're just trying to figure out, are we blowing all this money, on Facebook ads for bot traffic or wherever it's coming from? Or are dealers just not closing? Are we generating good leads, but we're sending them to the wrong dealers, or for whatever reason, they're not able to close it, whether they're backed up or not getting our emails, or what's going on?
Yeah, I've got a couple of thoughts on that too, because, if you've got good, accurate contact information, not only could you email, but you can use that accurate email for much more precise digital ad placement, not just on Facebook, which I think would also be really interesting. And the good companies that do this well actually will give you actual attribution, ROI attribution for that cost.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. And what SMS do you recommend? Like, I know HubSpot offers a $70 integration. And so I'm not sure if they should, with as much as we're spending on Facebook. Honestly, it seems like $70 is nothing, but it seems like they're fighting they're like, we're already spending all this money on this. And so they don't want to. And I know that there's other like Twilio and stuff like that seem to have a lot cheaper plans, but then you have to work in the integration and.
Well, I mean, HubSpot does have the SMS piece, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So
it's not HubSpot out of the box. It's integrations with multiple SMS companies.
Yeah, I mean, I know, like, because nobody's really cheap with it. Even MailChimp isn't
right.
Cheap.
Yeah, no, we're spending more than $70 a month on MailChimp. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, again, but knowing and I really do hear how hard it is for you to get to your ROI, but at least trying to get a proxy so you can actually know whether that makes sense for you.
Right.
Is going to be important.
It definitely seems like if there's a way that we could get more, I think we would definitely be interested in getting higher quality less leads, but higher quality.
That's always the better choice, right?
Right.
It's so rare that I hear somebody say to me, I don't care about the quality of the data. I just want to.
Right.
No, I'm serious. Like it's because we had a choice when we were doing Contact 411, right? We could have made it like really fuzzy, loose
Yeah.
matching. And so, you've probably gone on to different, companies on the web or like one at a time. It's like, oh, I'm looking for Karen salad. And it'll give you
Yep.
like 5 potential options.
Yep.
And we're like, first, I think that's creepy. Second, I don't
Yeah.
want any stalkers.
Right.
But second, like as long as you've got like a piece of information that, one piece of contact information, we can do that match and it's going to be specific to that person.
Right.
And that, I just think that's better.
Yeah. Yeah, we did Zoom info and yeah, weren't thrilled with the results. And even Breeze seems like it's doing something similar. And it might be because we're dealing with very small B2B companies. And so
Yeah.
they're kind of mixing and matching. And so I put in the domain name, but it finds a company in Australia that's the domain name.au that has the same name and kind of mixes it together. It has the description that comes on the page with the domain name, but I guess LinkedIn is probably the only place they could get information. And they're like, hey, this name is in LinkedIn. And
well, so interestingly, Zoom Info's information, as like there are a lot of companies out there that are scraping. I don't
yes.
know enough about Breeze, so I can't comment on how they get their data.
Well, Breeze is Clearbit.
HubSpot,
Right.
so that's right. Okay, so Clearbit scrapes. They are a data
Right.
scraping firm, right?
Right.
So they are scraping the internet. They've got bots and they're scraping. And that is, and so does Zoom Info. And though this is interesting, Zoom Info also adds what we call consolidated database sets. So there are these consolidated databases out there. So
Right.
but on the B2B side, they're very fractured.
Right.
On the consumer side, there are like 3 that have the whole United States. They're almost identical, and everybody uses like the same core files. So there's not really much difference on the consumer side. On the B2B side, there are all kinds of vendors. They've all got different data. There's
Yep.
one that does much better with enterprise level data. There's one that does much better with small businesses, another one that does better with micro businesses and solopreneurs. There's one that's specific to healthcare. There's one that's specific to education, like all these different vendors. And so my co-founder actually has been in the data business for 40 years. And so one of the things that we did was we came up with a patented way to grab multiple files and run across them at the same time. So we are accessing 3 different ones. But again, our data is not scraped data. And
Right.
but we don't have, like, there's a lot of stuff that Breeze has that we don't have, right? Like
Right.
we're not going to have the LinkedIn, tag. We're not going to have the Instagram tag. We are right now, someday we will, I just need to get more customers. Right now, we are just about contact data. So email, phone, address, and then
Yep.
on the B2B side, like much less of it, but we have like the URL, the company name, what the company does, the industry they're in, the department and job title, stuff like that. But that's it. There's a lot more stuff that you can get through Breeze with like the firmographics that really help you with segmentation in a
Right.
way that, we're more about the reach than the segmentation.
Right.
Does that
And I
help?
think that's what we'd be more interested in is the reach and not as much the segmentation and not as much the extras. We just need the address and the contact, how to contact them.
Okay. All right, great. Well, reach out. I'm happy to give you a demo. You can go on, hopefully the new website went up while we were on the phone, while we were on our call. Oh, look, I did a hand raise. I was desperately trying to get our new website up before we had this call. So we'll see if that actually happened.
Cool. I definitely appreciate you doing this, and I'll definitely reach out to you.
Yeah, great. And definitely see from Christina too, if you need help on that other, not the lead gen, but what was it? Oh my God, I'm having a senior moment.
The dealer locator.
Dealer locator.
Yeah.
Oh my God, thank you. Yeah. Ladies, thank you so much for all your support and your help with us.
Of course, it's fun. I learned a lot.
Well,
I
good.
feel
Me
like
too.
I feel like people there learned a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, and I hope people did. Like, that's what I care about. I just want to, people to learn. So, all right.
Definitely did. Thank you.
Nice to
Sure.
meet you, Tori. Thanks for
Nice
coming.
Nice
Lori,
to meet you too. You
Have a great
too.
rest of your day.
You too.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
All right.